Welcome to my garden studio. I'm going to be painting an abstract painting, but it's based on koi in a koi pond, and I'm just going to let it run. So I've got a very thinned down dark brown, and must point out again that we've got a third mark there and a third mark there and a third mark there. So if you imagine how koi come to the surface and they create a they create a ripple effect, I'm going to do that. So stick by me, it's going to change a lot. I want it to be very colorful, but I'm starting off with black while it's a dark brown, and I want my center focal point to be on this third mark, as if the koi have come to the surface. So we're just going to go like that. I'm using a large brush, a long handled brush, a long stem brush, and going to create this swirl that happens. You might hear the birds in the background. It's always pretty. And this is really the structural point of structuring the painting. So I'm using this circle. There's no point in making the circle on all 4 points. You want to make the circle on one of the points. And what's going to happen is, going to be this is forming the shadow underneath of the background to the koi. So they kind of being fed. Koi are going to be this size, tiny little koi. Well, maybe, yeah, that size. And we're making the background to this koi painting, which is really an abstract. I'm not going to be painting koi. It's like in realistic fashion. I'm going to show you how I'm going to use a palette knife to form the image of koi in a pond. Yeah. So that's almost done. It's actually very easy to do, as long as you've got the starting point. The starting point here is really important. If you've got that starting point, you can just doodle around, make little circular motion around this whole area, the whole painting. So once I've got a basic background in, I'm going to let this dry, and then we're going to do the koi itself, which is really just playing with color. Let's get this over here in this corner, and that's so this is a small painting for me, and we're just having fun, and we'll see you later. What you may or may not know is your koi colors: red, orange, white, black, and the rarest color for koi. The rarest color for koi is blue, but we're going to have some blue in the painting. Not much blue, not much green. And the decision now is which way are the koi going. So we're going to create a blob of paint, and I'm going to use a palette knife to create the shape of that koi as it goes from thicker to thinner. And I want my koi to be about that long. So it depends on how much paint you put onto the palette. So let's just begin. Let's see what happens. I'm going to, for the beginning, I'm going to use some orange. I am using a reference. Got this much paint, and I'm going to just put it in and see what happens. Create a shape. Okay, and we're going to be going over all these shapes. We're going to be going over it with white, actually. Remember, it is an abstract painting, so we're just going to keep on layering color until we feel that we've got it. Remember, a koi pond, especially with these little guys, they're going to crisscross across each other. So we're just starting with the orange and see what happens. Very easy to do at home. I really want to emphasize that it's easy to do, and you're creating this feeling of fish in a circle. Okay, so we just keep on with the orange, and remember that we've got a very warm day today again, so it's going to dry quite quickly. Using this circle, this area, as our focal point, the 1/3 mark, and it's always an easy way to start. If you're not sure how to start your painting, draw out the third marks, and then you get the possibilities come to you. I'm taking straight out of the tube, and I'm putting it onto the canvas, kind of in a regular pattern, because we're going to crisscross and create this feeling of fish swimming in a circle. Maybe they're being fed and they're getting fed in one area, so that the whole... I've closed up my orange. It was a bit tricky because you don't want to dirty your palette knife, but I've got a clean area on my palette knife, and I'm going to create... I think my fish are going in different directions here. It doesn't matter, so I'm going to just create a crossover over here, and again, whoa, too much paint. That's cool. Keep an eye on your paint, and we've got the yellows coming in. Keep going in your circular pattern, and it's going to start to mix with your orange. Okay, here we go. Got another clean area. Well, got a clean area here. Let's see if we can just get a shape across here. Yeah, there we go, and a shape across here. So you're kind of looking at your painting. I'm going to close up my orange. The yellow. What do you mean? Orange, not orange, it's yellow. Create some, just with the excess paint that's happening on my palette. And what I'm going to do now, I'm going to just delicately brush across the palette here. Across the painting with my palette knife. Just delicately go in that circular motion. Put some yellow down here. It's really, really cool fun. Using absolutely pure color, not mixing, not even using my palette knife. I'm just creating a circular motion. Keep watching your painting, and don't forget, you don't have to dry off your paint. If you've got enough, if you feel it's enough, then you can just leave it like that. What I don't want at this point in time, I don't want to have heavy texture, because I want to come back to it with more color and more light. The light being white. Almost imagine you're looking under the water and the koi are actually swimming around in circles. So now I'm going to have a look at it at an angle like that, and then you see that there's not much texture at all. If you see a blob or a little bump or something, try and push it back. Here's one right here. Now I'll just push it back, and then I'll let it dry. I'm not concerned about eyes, tails, fins, any of that at this point in time. We're going to deal with that later to actually give the feeling that this is a koi pond. Okay, hey, we're back again. It's starting to look like koi, but it's nothing like it's going to be at the end. So I'm using a palette knife to get my color on. You can use a popsicle stick to put your paint on, and we're just going to add a little bit of raw sienna. Raw sienna is like that neutral kind of color, and so I'm picking it up. We needn't worry about the cap being put on, and at this stage I'm mixing it onto my palette knife. Actually, my palette is that way, but it's really difficult to get into this cavity. So I'm mixing it on my palette knife, and my suggestion is don't mix it completely. Don't mix it up completely. Just get yourself a couple of pieces of paint on your palette knife, and these are arbitrary marks. They're not part of the original picture, but they would be leaves that would be floating on the top of the water. I'm constantly going round this point, this circular point here. Another thing that I can say is try not to scrape your paint on too heavily. Don't press too hard. Just touch it. But keep going around this point. And then we pick up here. It's getting a bit big there. Anyway, that's going to be covered. Just keep an eye on it. Keep an eye on it, and we're going circular motion around here like that. And there are already areas that look like koi going around in a circle. So we get that corner in, and we create a little neutral color. So this is a very neutral color, raw sienna. It's very neutral. It's a non-color. We might call it brown, but it's actually not brown. There's no brown. There's no brown. It's neutral. And I'll pick up a little bit more. Remember, this is an abstract painting. You're not painting koi. You really are just having fun with color. And the point being that this area here is the central area to our painting. Always dropping it down or pushing it up. So this painting could be that way, or it could be that way. But I'm kind of focusing on the bottom of the painting being here, and the center, the focal point of the painting being in this area here. So this is really neutral, and it's nothing. It's a nothing area. Very softly dragging the paint across. These little marks that are happening right here are nothing marks, but they actually are building the background. So the background is being built here. What I want to do now is flatten out this color, and these little bumps that are happening. So I'm going to curve it round and curve it round all around this point that is sitting right here. So that's where we are. We're going to curve it round. You just wait and see what happens when the white gets put onto this painting. And another thing I can say is I'm not trying to fill up the white here. I'm not trying to fill up the white, but I'm conscious of it, thinking about it. It's going to be filled up. This white is going to be filled up. The canvas white is going to be filled up with other white that crisscrosses across this entire painting. So you want someone to look at the painting and say, hey man, I'm not sure what it is, but I can see it could be a koi pond. That's what you want. You want this freedom for the viewer to decide, hey man, what is this, man? It's like, yeah, it looks like a koi pond. So I've got, and don't think that if you've got extra paint like this, that you need to use it up. You don't have to use it up. You can just go to the next panel and create another series of colors. So using the right shape of palette knife is actually quite important. This already looks like a fish. It looks like a fish, so we're making this circle go around in that point there. What I'm doing now is I'm looking at the picture. Okay, I don't like this section here. It's too big. There are not enough fish in this section. I want fish this size. There's my size. There's my size. There's a beautiful fish. I can start seeing it coming. Here's a fish that's just absolutely waiting to be painted. When we're not doing fish, remember, we're doing abstract. Yeah? Here's a nice fish, this yellow one. Turning my palette knife over, creating a white space here, arbitrary spaces, all of it is arb. Here's a fish here, you can see already, there's a fish coming in there. So he's on the top, or she. Don't make your marks too big. But I do want to break this mark up here. I'm not happy with that mark there. So be brave and cut across this mark, because not all the fish are going in the same direction. You're going to cut across there and cut across here, and what we've done is we've broken up that mark. Scratch some of it off. This one's become a bit big again, so I'm going to just take a bit off and go in that direction. So we're going to take some off there, take some off there, and put the light areas in. So what is happening is I'm moving from dark to light and then back to dark again. You'll see when we put the black in, it's going to be awesome. When you come in with a brush, a paintbrush, and put the black in again. So I've got these little guys going round in circles looking for their food. There we go. And there are no eyes yet, and there are no tails yet. That's still coming. That's still going to come. But these guys are all going around in these circles. So this is the light part. The light part of the painting. And some of the fish are going to be in a strange position. They're not going to go around and around in circles. It's going to create their own thing. So what I'm going to do is, because it's a small painting, I'm going to take careful attention to the edge of the painting and create a circular thing. So that's the light part coming back. I'll pick up the last bit of my paint and put it in that corner and there, and then we let it dry. So we're using acrylic paint. What I've done is I've scraped off as well as I need more white paint, but it doesn't matter. Scraped off a bit and I've put it right on the tip of my palette knife, and I'm going to put some specific fish in there. Okay, so now I'm going to let this dry completely, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use blue as a wash, as a very soft wash, and see what that happens, what that does. The main thing in this video is to show you how simple it is to create an abstract painting, because this is completely abstract and all I can see is fish at the moment. So that's what you want. Get an idea of the fish, different levels of the water as it comes up. So you've got fish underneath and you've got fish on the top, and I'm not so concerned at this point. We're about halfway through the painting. Not so concerned. I'm not as concerned as I was about the shape of the fish, but we're going to get there. We're going to reconstruct some of these fish, and all you need is 1 or 2 fish to make it feel like a fish pond, and the rest is just confusion. It's just abstract. Something's going on, they're going in all directions. So I'm very happy with this as it stands. Very happy. My palette knife has become dry, so I'm going to wipe it clean. so that I can be in more control of the next one. So, as abstract as it looks on the video, it's actually starting to read like koi. So what I'm doing is a tiny bit of green and a tiny bit of blue, so we're going to make a wash, and we're going to wash out all the white areas. And what I'm doing is I'm mixing it on the back of my palette, and I don't need to worry about mixing it completely. I'm going to keep my brush like this. So I've got my green where I want it, and I've got a blend of the green, and I've got a blue, and it's washed, so it's very watery. And keep watching, don't just paint the whole thing, keep watching everything, and we're going round and round the circle. What I'm looking at is trying to make the outside of the painting darker. So the outside of the painting is darker, and it's got a highlight in the middle. And I'm going over everything, going over the top of everything. I think I need a bit more blue, so I'm going to pick up some more blue, mix it in. Yeah, just a little touch, yeah, like that, yes, and mix it in, and then I can kind of position my blue where I want it. That's very nice. And I'm positioning my blue, just touching the edge of my brush in a watercolor feel, the feel of a watercolor. So it's not solid paint. And making the outside of my painting darker. And let's see what happens here. Yeah, it's cool, very cool. Those are koi. That's a koi. You can see it already starting to happen there. Koi, there's a fish there, there's a fish there. You've got to create in your mind what happens, that you're not trying to paint koi. It's an abstract painting. And that's pretty good, pretty cool. I'm happy. And we leave that to dry. So you can wiggle it up and down, but it gives you an idea of the front abstraction of the koi in a fish pond eating their food. So far so good. What I don't want to do is have a run on the paint. I don't want to have it running. So just keep your brush available to soak up that running paint. So I've got a brush that's semi-dry, and I'll just soak up this paint. I don't want any drip marks. I don't want an interruption coming across these marks here. So far so good. We're actually not that far from finished. I want to put some red in, and then I'm going to come in with the dark, and then maybe come in with some light reflections, actually the water. So we're dealing with levels, the levels of the water. You've got the water surface, and then you've got some fish on the top and some fish on the bottom, crisscrossing and doing whatever. And then you've got the dark that happens underneath that you can't see what's going on. And there we go. So far, I'm happy. Here we go. We're almost at the point where we now need to find fish and create the fish marks. The fish are always look at that. That's a fish. Not too much, just a little indication of fish. Its tail. There's another fish. As you go along, you're going to start seeing the shape of the fish and looking at the fins and creating fish marks. What I'm going to do now, take away a little bit of this mark because it's a bit strong, especially at the beginning. And I'm using this long stemmed brush, which is really one of my favorite brushes. There's a fin, there's a face, There's an eye in there. Eye's in the wrong position. Let's just recreate that. Here's a definite fish. What I've done is I've started in the center of the painting and starting to create the structure of the fish as we go. And you don't have to draw, you don't have to paint or sketch in the entire fish. It's tiny little marks that are creating the feel that the fish are there. So we've got that there, got the front of the fish there. So it's developing. Here's another fish on this side. So as you see it, you paint it in. Just drag it across and you get a feel of the very watered down paint, acrylic paint. Where's my next fish? Let's see, there's another one there, and then we've got another one here. And remembering how we started this painting, that's really the key. Here's another one right here. Okay, and he's turning this way, so he's swimming that way. Tail's a bit long, rub it off with your finger. And it's not pure black acrylic. It's just watered down enough to go back to the sketch. So what we're doing is we started with a sketch and we built up the colors in an arbitrary way. Didn't really matter. And now what we're doing is we're going back to the sketch. And that's really cool. There's a fish there. And here's a little fish here. So we're going round and round and round, darting backwards and forwards to get the next fish. Here's another fish. And it's reading like fish. It doesn't have to be an accurate depiction of a fish. It just needs to be a reading of fish. I'm picking up more paint here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep aiming at this point, which is the circle right here, and remembering that this is an abstract painting. Abstract meaning you don't really see the object. Hey, it's looking like a fish pond. Yeah. So what I've got is some black paint. And I'm just going to create some really dark triangles all the way along where the fish meet. They kind of coincide. And the dark is very important. It doesn't have to be black. What I have here is a dark green and red with a touch of black, and creating a negative space around all of the fish. So it's not necessarily black. And what you don't want to do is start copying your image. You keep on creating new images. Here's a fish right here. It's a brilliant fish. Okay, so we've got to create that fish and soften this black a little bit, and then we keep on going on the negative spaces around all the fish. So we've got negative spaces everywhere, and you can see I'm using my favorite brush again. There's another fin. Keep the fin. So now you start actually giving yourself, I want to darken this corner for some reason. I don't know why, but a blob of something that happened there. Darken this corner. Here's another fish. Okay, so we're twisting the brush and creating a fin, and you're just running around the painting all the time. You're going to darken this corner with a sketchy kind of feel. What? There's a drop of paint. It doesn't really matter. It's abstract, remember. This is not real. Not a real thing. So if you watched from the beginning of the video, you'd see there was a sketchy kind of feel throughout the whole thing, and we've actually gone back to that. And actually, I would say this painting is just one step from finished. Get this corner in, make it really dark, dry brush, get dry brush there. There's another fish. You're just seeing fish everywhere now. It's like fish all over the place. What the heck is going on here? Another fish, dry brush. We've got these yellow pieces coming up and showing. There's a little triangle that I want to get underneath that fish. Dry brush it out. And the next phase of this painting is going to be the light. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a little bit of a risk and put some eyes in. There's an eye, that's not an eye, that's just a blob. And we've got color going across, more defined fish marks. The koi have got brilliant shapes and marks that happen around the koi. Brilliant, beautiful subject matter to paint. So these guys are all doing their thing, swimming around, getting some food and whatever, and remembering that it's an abstract painting. It's not a real painting. Not trying to paint koi. Okay, and then you look around, and then you see, okay, there's a mark that needs to happen, like really dark in there. So we're going back from light to dark. And the next phase of it, once this is dry, is we're going to create a water feel over the top of the whole thing. Okay, we're back. I'm really enjoying this abstract painting. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to do the last phase of it, and that is adding white. So we've gone from white to dark, and then we've come back to white. So what that happens is on the water, let's see what this does. It's just damp this away, and going to create a feel of the reflection of the water on the top of the painting. So I'm taking my white paint and I'm twisting it around and pushing it back, and it's just enough to see that there's some reflection in the water. As easy as that. That's so easy. You can do it. It's so easy. Just remember that we're going round and around this focal point in the painting, lightening areas. We've darkened areas, we've lightened areas, and it's crazy abstract, and it's so crazy to do, so easy to do. You don't want to cover everything. You don't want to cover what you've done. You want to look at it as if it was a koi pond full of fish. You've got these lines happening round and round and round, and I think we're now almost finished. So yeah, be sure to like the video if you do, and then if you want to subscribe. That's what everyone says, so I'm saying it the same way. Subscribe, get a like button, watch all the videos, get an idea of what you're doing. So much variety in what you can do very simply. So that's our painting as it stands. Got all the bits and pieces in it. It's just an idea. It's an idea. Paint your ideas. Cheers. Watch you in the next video.